most of the work I've done this year is for the Times, but I've spent time in lower income communities working on stories of how the pandemic has affected individuals or how infrastructure impacts communities and demographics. And when I'm in these places, there are a lot of very potent symbols of poverty that are just right in front of you. I mean, rundown houses and homelessness. And those are things that I try to stay away from, or I try to qualify them by showing them with a little bit more context or presenting the vitality in those communities as a counterbalance.
Especially when it comes to photographing migrant communities, you have to be aware of the challenges that they're maneuvering. You have to be aware of something that they might not even think about. I'm aware of, like, maybe I should get an image that doesn't show their face. Maybe I should be a little creative, a little abstract, showing them in a different way that doesn't identify them. And you communicate that with your sources, because that's fair. That's something that they need to know.
In terms of like showing my own vulnerability, I also think that that's something that has been changing over the last probably 5 years. The more old school journalists who have been doing this for 30, 40 years, there's usually like, you don't share anything about yourself with the person that you're photographing and that you're reporting on, to maintain, the idea of neutrality or objectivity. But the types of stories that I'm working on are incredibly intimate, of very vulnerable people. And so it doesn't make any sense to me just to be purely extractive, just to be like, well, it's my job to ask all the questions. Therefore, I'm going to take and take and take and take and take and take until you can give no more. Yet you don't know anything about me. That's just not the way I operate as a human being. And so it doesn't make sense for me to work that way in journalism.
So if you're not a good person and you're trying to push the boundaries of things, or if you're trying to get away with things, trust me, it will come back to you. And the industry is small and it won't work. So just don't do it. You have to be a good person to do this kind of work, because it's all based on trust.